She walked into her own luxury jewelry store, and they treated her like she didn't belong. What the manager didn't know. She was the CEO, and in 2 minutes, his career would be over. You're not gonna believe how this unfolds. So watch till the end, because the twist? Satisfying. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more real justice, power moves, and jaw-dropping moments like this. The boutique shimmered under crystal lights, every corner glowing with soft elegance and opulence. Velvet-lined displays cradled diamond-encrusted necklaces and rare gemstones, pieces that whispered luxury, legacy, and generational wealth. It was the kind of store where whispers replaced voices and elegance wasn't just expected, it was enforced. At precisely 11:02 a.m., the front door chimed. In stepped a tall black woman dressed in a tailored navy pantsuit with gold accents. Her stride was graceful, commanding. Her natural curls framed her face like a crown. She didn't wear much jewelry, just a gold wristwatch and a subtle diamond ring, but her presence alone could stop a room. And it nearly did. Nearly. Instead of the warm welcome given to other patrons, the store manager, Chad, with his slicked-back hair and air of superiority, glanced up, wrinkled his nose, and stepped in front of her path. "Ma'am," he said, standing stiffly, "this boutique is by appointment only." She blinked, amused more than offended, but said nothing. She simply glanced at the sign by the entrance that read, "Walk-ins welcome." Still, she smiled politely. "No worries. I won't take long." Chad didn't move. "We cater to high-end clientele here. Perhaps try our outlet branch across town." The suggestion wasn't just offensive, it was laced with a familiarity black professionals knew all too well. Coded language, subtle bias, and full-blown arrogance wrapped in faux professionalism. But she didn't flinch. Didn't lash out. She simply stepped past him and began to browse. Another employee, a younger woman at the register, glanced nervously between the two. She clearly recognized something was off, but said nothing. The tension was unspoken, thick, and sharp like cut glass. The CEO, still unnamed to them, ran her fingers across a display she herself had chosen last quarter. The store layout had been her idea. The lighting, the branding, even the scent in the air, all hers. But to Chad, she was just another walk-in he didn't deem worthy of attention. He leaned in, arms crossed. "Please don't touch the display pieces," he added sharply, as if she were dirtying the air. She slowly turned her head, locking eyes with him. The corner of her lip curved, just slightly. "You have no idea who you're talking to," she thought. And in 2 minutes, he'd find out. The CEO moved gracefully through the boutique, her heels making soft clicks against the marble floors. She paused by a tray of emerald earrings, pieces she had personally signed off on just 3 weeks ago. Chad, the manager, trailed her every step like a shadow she never asked for. "Those aren't for public handling," he said sharply, watching her fingers hover over the velvet tray. She turned to him calmly. "I'm aware. I just wanted a closer look." "Let me know if you can afford anything," he added, as if it were a casual suggestion, but every word was dipped in condescension. She didn't blink. Not yet. Behind her, the door chimed again. A white couple strolled in, young, polished, dressed in leisure wear and designer sunglasses. Chad's energy changed instantly. His posture straightened. His face brightened. "Welcome," he beamed. "Can I offer you champagne while you browse?" The difference was stunning. While the CEO was treated like a trespasser, they were greeted like royalty. A server appeared from the back with 2 glasses on a silver tray. No appointment. No questions. No suspicion. The CEO watched the interaction unfold like a scene she had seen 100 times before. It was subtle, deliberate, and utterly predictable. She continued browsing, but now the younger employee at the register was watching her more intently, as if realizing something wasn't right. The tension was building, like a fuse being lit at both ends. "Do you need help with something?" Chad asked, voice clipped. "Yes," she replied, pausing thoughtfully. "I'd like to see the platinum diamond choker. The one in the vault." Chad smirked. That piece is reserved for serious buyers. He emphasized the words slowly, as if they carried extra weight. It's valued at over $80,000. I don't want to waste your time. The CEO's smile faded. Not completely, just enough. In that moment, her silence was louder than his arrogance. She wasn't angry. She was calculating. She reached into her handbag and pulled out her phone, not out of frustration, but preparation. Chad had just unknowingly disrespected the woman who owned the very air he was breathing in that store. And while he poured champagne for strangers, he was about to sip the consequences of his assumptions. The CEO stood at the corner display, her eyes locked on a single piece, a handcrafted necklace designed with rare Tanzanian sapphires and finished with a platinum clasp. She remembered the day she signed off on its final rendering. She had envisioned it for a woman with presence, for someone who understood that power could be worn like armor. That necklace was more than jewelry. It was a statement. Her statement. I'd like to see that piece, she said, calmly pointing to the necklace behind the glass. Chad raised an eyebrow as if offended by her audacity. That piece, he said slowly, is a custom commission, not for general viewings. Her head tilted slightly. I'm familiar with the design. Chad laughed, as if she'd told a joke. I'm sure you are, he said sarcastically. But I can't just hand out six-figure pieces to anyone who walks in. His tone was poison wrapped in politeness. The young employee behind the counter winced. The white couple from earlier was now glancing over, sensing the awkward tension. Still, Chad continued. I'll be honest, he said, lowering his voice like he was doing her a favor. People sometimes come in just to get a selfie with a luxury item. It cheapens the brand. I can't allow that. There it was. The final straw. The CEO didn't flinch. She didn't curse. She didn't raise her voice. Instead, she placed her handbag gently on the glass display. Then she pulled out a small black leather card holder, slipped out a matte business card embossed in gold, and held it up between two fingers. Chad squinted at it, then froze. The card read, Ava Duclair, Founder and Chief Executive Officer, Duclair Fine Jewelry Group. His face drained of color. Still, she said nothing. She simply placed the card down on the glass, next to the necklace, and picked up her phone. Activate in-store camera feed, she said quietly, pressing a single button. Across town, in a sleek glass office tower, her regional director's phone buzzed. He glanced at the alert. Live incident. Boutique number 3, flagged behavior. Within seconds, he was out of his chair. Back at the store, Chad's smirk was gone. He had just tried to humiliate the one woman who held the keys to his entire career. And now, she wasn't just a customer. She was the storm. The boutique, moments ago filled with soft classical music and sparkling displays, now buzzed with silent tension. Chad stood frozen, his eyes glued to the black card on the display. He reread the name. Once. Twice. The words founder and chief executive officer seemed to grow heavier with every passing second. The woman he'd been insulting, dismissing, policing, patronizing, was the very owner of the brand his paycheck depended on. She stood poised, her expression unreadable, one hand holding her phone while the other casually adjusted the sleeve of her blazer. There was no anger, just precision. Ava Duclair tapped a button and spoke two calm, steady words. Join me. That was it. But those two words were sent through a secure, company-wide alert, triggering an executive protocol that Ava had created herself for handling discrimination and customer complaints. 15 blocks away, the regional director, Derek Walters, was already in motion. He didn't waste time asking questions. He knew the system. If Ava had personally issued the command, something serious had happened. Back at the boutique, Chad's confusion gave way to desperation. Wait, hold on, he stammered. You're Ava Duclair? The CEO. She raised one eyebrow. That's what the card says, doesn't it? The young employee behind the counter looked mortified, clearly realizing the gravity of the moment. The white couple that had been sipping champagne now watched with open mouths, frozen mid-sip. One even whispered, That's her? She owns this place. Ava's phone buzzed. She didn't even need to look. The front door opened with a quiet chime, and in strode Derek, sharp suit, fast pace, no smile. His eyes locked onto Ava, and without hesitation, he walked straight to her and shook her hand with a reverence that said it all. "Ms. Duclair. I came as fast as I could." Ava nodded once. Collected. Then turned slowly toward Chad, who now looked like he wanted to sink into the marble floor. "What exactly happened here?" Derek asked, already knowing the answer. Chad opened his mouth to speak, but Ava cut in, cool and surgical. "Let's not waste time." She looked at Chad squarely. 2 minutes ago, you tried to humiliate the wrong woman. And now? Time had run out. The air inside the boutique had shifted. The once confident smirk on Chad's face was now replaced by a tremor of panic just behind his eyes. He looked around for support, but found only stunned silence. The white couple had stepped aside, champagne forgotten. The young sales associate stood rigid behind the register, her hands trembling slightly as she typed a phantom keystroke to look busy. Derek, the regional director, faced Chad directly now. His tone was calm but unmistakably authoritative. "Do you know who this is?" Chad swallowed hard, nodding once like a guilty schoolboy. "She said her name was Ava Duclair, but I thought." Derek cut him off. "No. You assumed. And you were wrong. This is our founder. This is our CEO. This is the reason this store exists." The words dropped like anvils. Ava, ever composed, finally broke her silence. "You had every chance to treat me with the same courtesy you gave to the couple who walked in after me. You chose to judge me based on your assumptions. Not my behavior. Not my words. Not my credentials." Chad's mouth opened, searching for an apology that wouldn't come off as pathetic. "I didn't mean to offend you," he muttered, voice thin. "I was just trying to protect the brand image." Ava's laugh, low and laced with irony, cut the air. "You were talking to the brand." That was it. That was the moment the scales tipped entirely. The young employee behind the counter let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The couple looked at each other, then at Ava, then down at the floor. Derek stepped forward, finality in his voice. "Remove your name tag and hand over your store keys. Now." Chad froze. "Wait, you're firing me?" "Just like that." Ava gave him a look that could shatter glass. "Not just like that. I'm firing you for treating my store like a country club and my presence like a threat." Chad hesitated for a moment before unpinning his badge. It clattered softly on the glass display, ironically louder than any words he'd spoken. And just like that, the man who tried to gatekeep luxury was locked out of his own illusion. For good. Chad stood behind the counter like a statue, staring at the name tag he'd just placed down, as if willing it to undo what had already been done. His breath came in short, panicked bursts. Just 5 minutes ago, he was the gatekeeper of this luxury boutique, strutting like he owned it. Now, the ground beneath him had crumbled, and he was choking on the dust of his own arrogance. Derek didn't blink. "Your termination is effective immediately. Security footage will be reviewed. Your conduct, your bias, is now part of the company's official incident file." Chad tried to plead. "This is a misunderstanding. Look, I didn't know who she was." But Ava raised her hand gently, silencing him with nothing but grace. "You didn't need to know who I was," she said. Her voice was calm, but the power in it was undeniable. "All you had to do was treat me like a human being. Like a customer. But instead, you made it your mission to make me feel out of place in my own store." A hush fell over the boutique. You could hear the buzz of the ceiling lights, the faint clink of a champagne flute being set down in the background. Every person inside had become a witness to something bigger than just a firing. They were witnessing a reckoning. The young sales associate finally spoke, voice trembling. "Ms. Duclair, I didn't know what to say. I knew it was wrong, but I froze." Ava turned to her, her expression softening for the first time. "You were quiet. But now, I hope you've found your voice." She paused. Silence in the face of discrimination isn't neutrality. It's permission. The associate nodded, eyes glistening. "I understand. I really do." Chad, now holding his coat in one hand and his dignity in none, turned toward the door without another word. As he walked past the stunned customers and out into the street, the boutique felt lighter, like it had been washed clean of something toxic. Ava adjusted her blazer, then walked behind the counter, her rightful place. The silence finally broke when one of the customers clapped softly, then another. Justice had been served, not loudly, but flawlessly. Like the diamonds in her cases, cut sharp, set clean, and impossible to ignore. With Chad gone and the boutique slowly returning to normal, Ava remained behind the counter, surveying the space she had built from nothing. Every display, every lighting fixture, every brand decision bore her fingerprints. But what happened today reminded her that ownership wasn't always protection. Not from bias, not from disrespect. Even when you build the table, some will still try to deny you a seat at it. She turned her gaze to the young sales associate still standing stiffly behind the register. Her name tag read, Lena. Her eyes avoided Ava's but carried something deeper than fear, shame. Ava walked over slowly, her heels barely making a sound now that the weight of confrontation had passed. "You knew what was happening," Ava said gently, her voice free of accusation but firm with truth. Lena swallowed, her voice a whisper. "I did. I didn't know what to say." Ava nodded, eyes steady. "You didn't have to know the right words. You just had to say something. Silence tells people like Chad that what they're doing is acceptable. That you agree, even if you don't." Lena's eyes brimmed. "I was scared to lose my job." Ava looked around at the boutique and then back at Lena. "I get it. But let me be clear, this place? I didn't build it so people could stay comfortable. I built it so people could feel seen. That goes for our staff as much as our customers." There was a beat of silence, heavy with realization. "I want you to grow here, Lena. But not at the cost of your voice," Ava added. "Next time you witness something wrong, I expect you to stand up, not just for me, but for anyone." Lena nodded, finally meeting Ava's eyes. "Yes, ma'am. I understand. Thank you for the second chance." Ava placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Don't thank me. Earn it." Across the boutique, Derek watched with admiration. Ava wasn't just running a luxury brand, she was shaping a culture. One where power wasn't just held, but shared. Where respect wasn't just demanded, it was modeled. And in that moment, Ava Duclair wasn't just a CEO. She was a lesson everyone in that store would never forget. Ava moved gracefully behind the counter, reclaiming the space that was always hers, even if it took a confrontation for others to recognize it. She keyed in a code on the vault drawer, and with a soft click, it opened to reveal the custom-designed necklace Chad had refused to show her earlier. She gently lifted the platinum choker, set with deep blue sapphires and shimmering diamonds, and held it up to the light. It sparkled, alive with every facet of her journey. It wasn't just jewelry. It was history. Her history. Every gem a milestone. Every inch a reminder. She turned to the few guests still watching in quiet awe and spoke, her voice rich with calm authority. "This necklace? I designed it for women who carry weight without breaking. For those who walk into rooms and change them, without needing to prove they belong." A hush swept through the boutique as she continued. "When I started this company, I couldn't even get a meeting with the same jewelers who now begged to collaborate. I walked into rooms and was told I was too young, too bold, or just not the right fit for luxury." She paused, making eye contact with every soul in the room. "But I didn't build this brand to be accepted. I built it because we deserved to be reflected. And no one gets to question that, not in this store, not in any space I've touched." Lena stood a little taller behind the counter. Derek offered a quiet, proud nod from across the room. And the couple who'd once been sipping champagne now looked at Ava with nothing but admiration. Ava carefully placed the necklace back in the velvet tray and closed the drawer. Then she stepped forward, heels clicking softly, and stood where Chad once did. But instead of arrogance, she radiated ownership. Not just of the store, but of her story. She turned toward the security camera, knowing the footage would be reviewed for internal training. And with a voice steady and clear, she said, "Let this be a reminder to every woman, every person of color, every underestimated dreamer. Don't wait for permission. Own the room. Because sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is showing up exactly where they said you didn't belong." And with that, Ava Duclair smiled. The boutique, now buzzing with a new energy, had never felt more hers.